This video is a follow-up to the hand-sewn shirt buttonholes that I already made. Since I went over the technical aspect already, I want to go over a sort of a practical aspect of it. Since there's between 12 and 20 buttonholes usually in a shirt, cutting out bits and pieces here and there it really saves time, I've found. So I just want to share the things that I've done in order to most efficiently put buttonholes into shirts. And this seems to be the best format to do it in, something that I don't usually use, just because I have a shirt that I'll be sewing buttonholes into. So, and the first two things that I usually do is, one of which I mentioned before, but starting with a skein of thread. So I also said the amount of thread I needed for a buttonhole was about my arm length and my chest. So, well, to make the skein, I just take that amount 12 times for this shirt. Okay, so 4. This is usually a lot easier. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, wait, 9, whatever. I think that's the correct number. Then cutting that loose at both ends. Then sometimes I'll usually press this under the iron just to steam it, maybe release the tension. I'm not sure what it particularly does, but sometimes it helps. I've definitely noticed it helps when padding, but when doing buttonholes, I'm not so sure. Then that can be hung up or put down wherever you happen to be keeping your buttonholes. And the second thing is cutting holes, all of the holes into the shirt. I don't feel compelled to machine around all of these, nor do I feel like basting around them, especially on the placket, since I've got both sides, well, one side on the fold and the other side sewn down. Don't find it particularly necessary. I feel like I keep forgetting the bottom buttonhole is horizontal. Nailed it. And the cuffs, same thing, but these ones need to be top stitched still, but you can do that afterwards. It might be a case that if you are going to do these in a few separate sessions, depending on the fabric, it might fray a lot more than, well, this denim is very nice to make shirts out of, as it turns out, and, well, it doesn't fray too badly over time. So, not to mention I'm probably going to do these buttonholes all today, so I don't need to think about them fraying or anything like that. So, it's basically step one. That just saves stopping and doing every buttonhole in one go, or doing each buttonhole one at a time. Now, getting started, I have a pin here, needle here somewhere. That is less than ideal. I'll be back. That was a really good, there it is. It's underneath the tripod. That's a really good, shirt buttonholes needle, so. And then, there's probably two ways you can go about it. I mean, if you've used a skein before, you can either just take one thread, hold the other one and pull it tight, and then you've got a thread, or hold both ends, take a loop and pull it out. Just depends on what you feel like. And then there are other threads you can use that might be better sized, but I mean, we've gone over this in the technical video, but just knotting the thread. And then we can get started. Obviously, usually just on the bottom one here. Need to get my thimble. There it is. Kind of want to sit down as well. Right, I feel like technically you could come way down again. Okay. Like I've said before, prick stitching towards the hole, coming up just to the right of it. And I mean, at this point it's just, that's exactly how it works. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but I already can't remember whether I said every time I start and finish a new hole, this is where I get to. So if I need to take a break, I will load a second needle, start a second hole, get to here, and then go and do whatever the other thing was I happen to want to do. And then I can come back and just immediately get started again. Feck. Just coming to the end, doing the last stitch without wrapping the thread. Creating the bar. Like I say, I think wrapping it twice is enough. Make sure you pull it away from where it started so that it does wrap around the entirety of the thread. And we can turn it around and we're starting fresh. I'm almost surprised at this point I haven't already had a tangled thread. Now, along the second side just because there's less thread. Something that can be done instead of wrapping the thread is to simply send the needle straight through, pull it almost tight, and then we come back from underneath. So I'm looking at where the thread is going through the fabric into the previous knot. So I'm coming underneath, not on top, because that creates a counterclockwise knot. And then just pulling that through and pulling it tight, and you get the exact same knot, which can be done at any time, but I've found it works most easily when you've got less thread, less extra thread. You still focused? Maybe. Now the advantage of this, bother. Wow. Bad timing of the thread tangling, but you know. The advantage of this method is that you don't have to adjust your grip and wrap the thread around the needle. The needle just goes through the thread and then through the loop. You don't have to adjust your grip at all. You just have to grip it slightly less tightly. And it goes straight through. Something I've also noticed using this method rather than knotting it is that I'm always a bit more soft when pulling the thread taut. So there's less tension in the knot, which can be an improvement depending on how much tension you've put in it in the first place. Now, I'll be the first to admit this one certainly looks a bit large. Usually prefer my shirt knots to be a bit finer. Shirt buttonholes to be a bit finer. One more. I think that beep might have been my 40-minute warning. Now, something else about when I finish a buttonhole, okay, hang on. Okay, prick stitching away again. Something else about finishing the buttonholes is that I don't immediately trim away all of the thread. I'll do that all at once, just so. I'll cut one of the strands. Well, missed it. I'll cut away one of the strands so I can pull the needle loose and there's no scrap thread yet. No, where are you pointing? Okay. Yeah, so then at the end, we've got, at the end of the first buttonhole, you've got your skein. next one? Don't know. Screw it. Like I said, if I wanted to take a break, that's where I'd do it. If that way I can just go, I can come back and just get started straight into the buttonhole. I've just preferred being able to start from here with a loaded thread and everything, rather than having to start a new thread, new stitch. I can just get straight into it. When it comes to getting knots, whereas I at this point I was kind of expecting to get the thread knotted at least once, but when it comes to the thread getting knotted, if you wrap, so let's assume the thread was knotted here. Something that we could do to help unravel it is to take out the thread from the needle, the thread out of the needle, in order to help pull it out. But from here, obviously, well, which way do you put the thread through? So obviously, so the idea is to keep in mind that it goes in from the back. So from the knot, it comes on top and then it goes underneath. So you want to come in from the behind, right? Maybe it's a bit difficult to see with the tonal thread, but maybe it's something you can keep in mind when you're practicing. Now, after I've finished this buttonhole, I'm going to take a quick break to revisit my notes on what I wanted to cover. Or am I? No, I won't actually, because I just remembered. Now wanted to just say something about how I do I remembered I wanted to say something about how I might prefer to do the cuffs. But if I was going to take a break to check my notes, I'd be stopping here, right? But as it stands, I'm going to just do this one. Yeah, and sometimes something like that, well, that, focus, I wonder, can it even focus on something like that? Can it even focus that? Okay, so yeah, so it's left a small loop when I pulled it through, so that's worth covering. Basically, well, the thread has become asymmetric, so I'm pretty sure I mentioned this though. You need to find which one, well, that was easy, which one is loose and just pull that one all the way through, and then make sure the thread is back under tension so that it's even. Both sides are even again. That was fortunate, I'd forgotten all about that. Okay, something on cuffs and the collar I've begun to do is in the original video I did one bar tack and that was it. But for cuffs and collars, I've started experimenting with doing a second bar because, well, obviously these parts are under most tension, especially the neck, so it can be worth just reinforcing that point so that the thread is, or so that the cloth is less likely to tear. Still wrapping the bar twice though. Although I am also wont to use this as a break point, just to, you focusing? This as a break point just to stop and take a break halfway through the buttonhole. So come back and do the second line later. But I'll just do this one for now and then see if I can remember if there was anything else I wanted to cover. Because it won't be soon, but I am definitely going to remake my, the shirt, the bespoke shirt video, just because, well, it sucks and could do better. Much, much better. The method is questionable in places, and I think the general video could, well, and the techniques are also a little bit horrifying to me. I swear these buttonholes are a bit more bulky than I thought they would be. But I'm starting to think it's not tangling as badly as I would expect it to because it's Trace Searchy thread. Trace Searchy cotton, which must be, well, it's nice and slightly more expensive, but, well, seems to me to be worth it. And again, on the back of the cuffs and collars, I'm going to do one tack, one bar tack, and 2 bar tack. And it should be a bit more resistant to tearing anyway, considering the interfacing I've got in there, the cotton interfacing I have. But, well, I just think it couldn't hurt, especially on this slightly more bulky denim shirt. It's not going to make a huge difference. Then, as I do, come on. Here, and then gonna break. Now I'm gonna try to, I just want to illustrate cutting out all of the, cutting away all of the buttonholes at once. I just need to get under the tripod, do something with this. See? Right, so I've just got a shirt that I've already done all the buttonholes on. I just want to because I just think of cutting away all the threads. It's just going to be easier to dispose of them, and well, maybe make sure I don't forget any. Just in the end, doing them all at once. This is just, I mean, obviously I think I would just leave this to you. It's when you're doing it. You can cut away the thread as you like if you want. I just happen to prefer to do it this way, all at once, all at the end. If anything, the arguments to do it all when to cut the threads away as you're going are probably stronger than the ones to cutting it away afterwards like I am here, but well, there's no real right or wrong in this particular aspect. In this particular case. Yeah. Now that can just go away all at once instead of having this on the floor in one part, that on the floor somewhere else, and then hoovering it up, just, I don't know, get rid of it all in one go. Both of these I need to find buttons for. Okay. I think that was largely all I wanted to cover. I'm not sure about this format, how it's going to edit together very well. Got about half the time left. No, a bit less than half. About 40 minutes of footage that I need to fix together. I really want this to be a really relatively short video. But I hope, considering, well, again, I probably should have said this earlier. I think I wanted to say it earlier, but you don't need to, if you can machine sew buttonholes onto shirts, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as they're quite neat. Most buttonholes on shirts are sewn by machine. There's probably very few hand-sewn shirt buttonholes, which is probably why, which is why I've labelled mine as possibly the best in London. Bit cheeky, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not sure what else I can add, what else I wanted to say, so happy buttonholing.